When Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was announced at E3 2016, I was stunned. The brief trailer they showed looked more like PT than Resident Evil, but on top of that, surprised it had a release for January. Needless to say, I was excited but skeptical, and these feelings only grew as time went on due to Capcom's hushed marketing. In order to get my true thoughts out on the matter, I'm going to spoil stuff. Not everything in critical detail, but the more interesting talking points. It's a weird enigma in that describing anything in the game is almost a spoiler in itself after the beginning, but I digress. Let's get to it. Now ultimately, I really like Resident Evil 7, but the game is not without fault. My biggest gripe is the name, which is an odd thing to gripe about, especially in a world filled with Kingdom Hearts' terrible titles, but hear me out. This is essentially a reboot of the series while keeping the timeline intact, or so it would seem, but I'll get to that later. Anyway, you're alone going through a large estate with puzzles aplenty and jump scares around every corner. They even brought back the safe room, which contains save points and item boxes. There's a fixed inventory, backtracking, but not much, and you can mix chemicals to create different items. It's the soul of Resident Evil with a tone more similar to Outlast or, again, PT. The tone itself is a mixture of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and pretty much every horror movie from the past decade. As good a blend as it is, the name still bothers me. Calling something the 7th entry in your franchise carries a lot of weight with it. While Capcom could have named Resident Evil something else, like perhaps just Resident Evil Biohazard, or Resident Evil Biohazard, thanks to anyone who chuckled even slightly at that. Anyway, the truth is numbered sequels always sell better than spin-offs. Actually, I would have respected Capcom more if they just made this into a new franchise. But one company with 2 horror franchises would be weird. On top of that, it's not like this is the first-person game in the Resident Evil franchise. Plus, the main game, Resident Evil 4, was a huge departure for the series as well. With that said, I think I could argue back and forth with myself over the justification of the name Resident Evil 7 all day long, so let's just move on to the game itself. Now, our story begins with Ethan Winters, who finds out his wife, Mia, has mysteriously resurfaced after 3 years of being gone somewhere in Louisiana. Her location leads him to an abandoned property in the bayou. The beginning half hour is roughly what one can experience from the free demo. There is no combat until the end, so gameplay results in exploring the house's past in order to unlock rooms and or fill in lore. Eventually you find Mia, but she becomes possessed, which results in a series of what I would like to call boss encounters. Eventually, after dozens of bullets and an axe blow to the neck, Mia goes down as a creepy Walter White looking dude appears and knocks you out. That's essentially where the true game begins, but the gameplay loop is not far off from this. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is a combination of exploring environments, solving very easy puzzles, and ending with boss fights. Particular members of the Baker family, 3 in all, who all have their own personal quirks, lead a part of the estate. Walter White, Jack, is incredibly strong and dedicated to hunting you down, much like the nemesis in Resident Evil 3. Mrs. Baker, Marguerite, has a fascination with bugs, and the son, Lucas, loves Saw apparently. There are other monsters prowling about, including aforementioned bugs, and the Molded, which look like water creatures from Resident Evil Revelations combined with venom. Supplies are thin, but the combat is somewhat rare, at least for a Resident Evil game, so to add another analogy in here, it's like a creepier version of Gone Home. The mystery is what guides the player, and while Resident Evil nods are light, things start to click towards the end, which I'm going to clumsily summarize so I can get to the juicy theories. Eventually, you take control of Mia once her and Ethan escape the Baker complex, in a good version at least. Along the way, they find an abandoned ship wherein a tentacle drags Ethan away, and players take control of Mia in her quest. She comes across a child, Evelyn, who turns out to be a bioweapon and the one behind possessing everything. Mia herself works with an organization transporting her until Evelyn escapes and kills everyone aboard the ship. The Bakers found Mia washed ashore, so they basically rescued her and Evelyn as well, possessing her. This is why everyone went crazy. Now, it's never stated what her organization is, like did Mia capture Evelyn as a threatening bioweapon, like other Resident Evil heroes, or was she simply transporting her for a corporation like Umbrella? At this point it's not stated, but one can allude to the truth at the very end. So once Mia rescues Ethan, it eventually progresses into the final confrontation of Evelyn becoming a giant head with tentacles. You're only able to defeat her once a mysterious individual throws you a gun from a helicopter, a nod to so many Resident Evil games. Once defeated, the soldiers clad in other familiar gear with gas masks drop down. One approaches Ethan and takes off his mask, which confused me as his face didn't appear to be familiar. However, seconds later he revealed himself as Redfield. Oh right, and they take off in a helicopter labeled Umbrella Corporation. Needless to say, I immediately rushed to the internet for answers. Now in the credits he's listed as Chris Redfield, so this could just be a redesign of the Chris Redfield. The Umbrella Corporation was disbanded in 2004, with their remnants scattered across different individuals and organizations, as we've seen throughout the games, including most recently Neo Umbrella and Resident Evil 6. Perhaps Chris Redfield and his team decided to buy out the Umbrella Corporation name and make sense for something good again. But then again, I think Chris would be the last one to do that. Maybe then this isn't the Chris after all. Fan theories suggest it could be the Umbrella soldier known only as Hunk. He has his same gear and no one knows what he looks like. Perhaps he was a clone of Chris all along. Why so young though? Maybe Hunk has been a series of Chris clones. When one dies, another is brought out from storage, kind of like the Resident Evil movie universe with Project Alice. If this clone theory is correct, it would suggest Capcom might have been more influenced by Hideo Kojima than just PT's style. Of course, Hideo Kojima's story with Metal Gear is hardly the first to feature clones in video games, so that connection is just a shot in the dark. Whatever the case may be, questions will probably be answered with the DLC Not a Hero due out this spring. It'll star this Chris Redfield, and it'll be free, so thankfully we don't have to wait until Resident Evil 8 to find out the truth. Aside from Chris's mystery, I want to know what Ethan looks like since they went through great lengths to hide his face. Also, who does Mia work for? And as for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard itself, I want to reiterate that I enjoyed it. The name bugs me still, but the design is solid throughout and it's truly terrifying, plus it's gorgeous in a grim way. I don't want Resident Evil 8 to be like this, but I also don't want it to be like Resident Evil 6 either. Hopefully they can find a happy medium in between, but that's probably far off anyway, and we'll see plenty of spin-offs until then. And that's all I have to say on Resident Evil 7 Biohazard for now. Thank you for joining me. Did you know that was a ReActionExaminer video? If you liked it, you should subscribe to me to keep up with everything that I'm doing. Also, if you have some other interests, like sex for example, check out Tomops, which is a comedy sex podcast thing wherein my best friend and I check out the weird and abnormal and the erotic. And of course, you should support me on Patreon because, hey, I want to make the channel better and I want your help to do so. Plus, if you want to check out my writing, check out Game Jerk, where I have archives and new stuff for all projects, okay? You can find all the stuff and more in the description with the links below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.